I'm on the camp that I think India should steer on the fiscal discipline. They should go for 3.5%. There's no reason why we shouldn't be steering away. And I think, as any corporate will tell you, and any person will tell you, that focusing on the numbers, on the targets, being disciplined on that is very, very important. So, as you rightly said, India has commodity crude prices that are in its favor. Secondly, we are going through a very turbulent time globally. So, I think it's good to have a tight, strong balance sheet, because you never know. If you have a strong balance sheet, you can deal with uncertainty. If you have a weak balance sheet, I think it's difficult to deal with uncertainty. Thirdly, whilst the central fiscal deficit is under control, the state fiscal deficits are getting less and less disciplined, and especially with this Uday scheme and everything, where they're transferring the liabilities from the state electricity boards to the state board, to the state government balance sheets. I think the fiscal deficit in the states are likely to go up. And fourth is, if you compare around the world, whilst India is in a very good position, but if you look just in terms of consolidated fiscal deficit, India is on the lowest quartile. So, except Brazil, most other developed countries or emerging markets have better fiscal deficit percentages than India.
It is not necessary to have a debate that increased public expenditure to stimulate the economy is not necessarily in dissonance with fiscal rectitude. You have two options before you. One is, of course, this repeated point of off-budget financing. You are seeing large portions of infrastructure ministries doing things which they didn't do 3 years ago.
That's right.
Which is, everybody is raising funds for growth outside the budget. What about strategic sales of infrastructure assets?
India, I was going to come to that next.
I mean, there are power plants, roads, ports, airports, hydroelectric projects, hotels. The state owns a huge amount of assets which the PE funds coming from Canada, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, they are keen to take not development risk, but they are keen to buy operating, running assets. Even Indian companies. Why don't we have a program which is far more powerful than disinvestment, which is linked to markets? This is not linked to markets.
And actually, empirical evidence does seem to suggest that strategic sale always gives you better returns than disinvestment
Now, if you put off-budget financing and add that to strategic sale options, which is humongous, you really don't need to have this debate at all, and this is the third camp.
Should the government go ahead and continue with its present policy? Both the UP and the NDA have followed. Keep recapitalizing banks. That's the only way you're going to turn them around. Or should they actually very seriously turn back and say, why are we putting good money after bad money? Why don't we reduce stakes?
You reduce stakes it's not that simple when you have a stressed balance sheet.
That's right.
So obviously, if anyone's going to come to the rescue, it's going to be the government. So it'll have to be the government. But instead of just coming to the rescue, I think they're just going to make sure that the banks become more efficient. Why did all this happen? Somebody somewhere down the line took wrong decisions, or the process was wrong, or the standard operating procedure was wrong. Something was wrong, and they need to make the correction. They need to get to the root cause of the problem and make the correction.
One of the suggestions that's now coming into the public domain is that why should India doggedly follow the Basel norms? Why don't we take a leaf from the Basel norms, reduce our recapitalization requirement? Why should we have capital adequacy of 8%? Why could we not have it at 6%? Is that something that finds favor with you? Because the counter argument to that is that when and if the economy does recover, banks will be required to lend credit. Where are funds then going to be generated from?
I think changing the norms when you are in a stressed position is not a good idea.
Okay.
I think at the moment the objective must be to clean up the banks. It is at a cost. As Sumit rightly said, why has it happened? That also must be looked at. And those who are in the stressed position, where is it where it's happened because of actually economic parameters and where it is for other reasons. I think that needs to be identified. But getting them in order, writing off bad debts, loans, etc., and cleaning up the balance sheet is important, because then you at least know where you stand. Otherwise, like a dark pit without any knowledge of how deep that pit is. So I think that's one. Secondly, after that is done, the government should put in money to recapitalize, make them healthy again, and then look at strategic disinvestment.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.